Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS. NFL Week 1 is here. In this video, doing Falcons Steelers. This one's in Atlanta. Let's go.
Welcome to the SWAS. The SWAS. SWAS. Hey, get the SWAS.
All right, like I said, we got Pittsburgh on the road in Atlanta for this one. The new look Atlanta Falcons offense laying 3 points here. Looks to be 3 across the board. Total sitting at 42 or 42.5, depending on your sports book. So let's go ahead and get into this one, and we'll start with some head-to-head history. Steelers, 4-0 straight up. 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 matchups against Atlanta. Now, granted, they don't play very often. This is dating back to 2010, but there's definitely a pattern here. Does Pittsburgh own this team? The Steelers against Atlanta, I believe this goes back to 1981. 11-1-1 straight up, 9-4 against the spread. So no question, the Steelers have been a tough out for the Atlanta Falcons, but we're talking about 40 years of data here, so most of it's irrelevant. I just thought it was interesting to bring up. So let's go into this particular matchup, and obviously we know the big change on the Steelers offense. Matt Canada no longer calling the plays here for the Steelers. They're bringing Arthur Smith. In fact, this is the Arthur Smith revenge game on the road in Atlanta, his old team. The Falcons offense under Arthur Smith, 27th in DVOA in 2021, 8th in 2022, then back to 24th in 2023. It looked like things were trending one way and then swung back the other way pretty violently. So what's the difference between Matt Canada's play calling and Arthur Smith's play calling? Well, there's a bunch of them, but one of the main ones is play action. Matt Canada, not a lot of play action at all. 29th in play action frequency. Arthur Smith, 2nd. So there's a dramatic difference right there, and that can play into Russell Wilson's favor. Russell Wilson last season out of play action, 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception. And I believe 11 passing touchdowns out of play action was the 2nd most in the NFL. So all right, he gets himself an OC that runs a lot of play action. Maybe this elevates the Steelers' passing attack, and it certainly needed to be elevated. Here are their numbers from last season. 6.7 yards per pass attempt, which is 23rd in the NFL, 25th in passing EPA. So maybe the play action could help Russell Wilson get acclimated into the new offense. Now, last year, we saw the Falcons run a ton of man coverage. 56% of their defensive snaps in pass coverage last year were in man coverage, 4th most in the NFL. So the Falcons ran a lot of man coverage last year. Russell Wilson, not the greatest passing numbers against man coverage. In fact, just 6.27 yards per pass attempt. Didn't turn the ball over, which is a plus, but just 6.27 yards per attempt. Not the greatest numbers against man coverage. Now, obviously, Raheem Morris is now coaching the team, and the DC he brought in comes from the Rams also. But the Rams ran a lot of man coverage last year as well. So I expect the Falcons to stick with that and be running man coverage, which overall not a great look for Russell Wilson. Speaking of which, kind of a side note here, as far as the Steelers receivers go, George Pickens, excellent numbers against man coverage, 3.22 yards per route run, 130.8 passer rating when targeted against man coverage. So maybe George Pickens over is worth a look because we are expecting the Falcons to come out and run a lot of man coverage. But anyway, back to Russell Wilson. Now, the Falcons had trouble getting the quarterback to the ground. 26th in adjusted sack rate last year. Pass rush is definitely a problem for the Falcons. But here's the thing. Russell Wilson, really not great last year when given a clean pocket. In fact, 25th in yards per pass attempt, 20th in passer rating when given a clean pocket. He actually had a better passer rating when pressured last year, which doesn't even make sense, but we're just reading the numbers. Also, pressure to sack rate, 27th. So not really sure what I think about that. Keep in mind, though, all these Falcons defensive metrics need to be taken with a grain of salt because we're talking about an entirely new, not necessarily a new defense as far as personnel. It's most of the same pieces, but Raheem Morris is coaching the team. He was coaching the Rams defense last year, so who knows what this Falcons defense is going to come out and do. But based on the personnel they had and the production we saw last year, not a ton of pressure, although adding Matthew Judon should probably help with that, but not a ton of pressure, not a ton of sacks, man coverage. That's what we saw last year, so I expect to see some variance of that. Now, here's where it gets really concerning for the Steelers, because, yeah, we can look at Russell Wilson's numbers out of play action, his numbers against man coverage, his numbers against a bad pass rush, all that, but look at the Falcons' run defense. 4th in yards per carry, which was 9th in the NFL, 1st in run defense DVOA. Or EPA, I'm sorry. 1st in run defense EPA. They led the league. PFF also had them ranked as the #1 run defense last year. We're talking about Russell Wilson's success out of the play action. Well, the thing about the play action is it doesn't really work as well if you can't establish some sort of run game. So that's a tough look for the Steelers. Here it is right here, the graphic. PFF, first in run defense grade. They're also 8th in adjusted line yards, so offensive lines had a tough time creating space against the Falcons' defensive front. Now, if you pull up the defensive depth chart from the Falcons, you can see, hey, they lost a couple pieces in their defensive front seven. So maybe that run defense isn't quite as elite this year. Calais Campbell's gone, Bud Dupree's gone. But here's the thing. Look who they replaced him with. Zach Harrison's going to start. He was there last year as a rookie, a third-round pick. Calais Campbell is aging. They don't see this as a downgrade. And then Matthew Judon has been added to the defensive front, not to mention Justin Simmons at safety. So you can make the argument that the Falcons' run defense, one of the best run defenses in the NFL, it may have even gotten better. And by the way, on the offensive side of the ball for the Steelers, we have some questions here, especially on the left side of the offensive line. Their first-round pick's been banged up. We don't know if he's going to play in Week 1. He's listed as questionable. Looks like they're going to be without their left guard in that game as well. Jaylen Warren is also banged up. He's listed as questionable. Although I'm reading that Jaylen Warren is most likely going to play, this isn't exactly what you want to see Week 1 on the road against one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And specifically, it's a little concerning because the run game was like the salvation for the Steelers last year. In Weeks 1 through 8, they were averaging less than 80 rushing yards per game, 3.41 yards per carry. I mean, towards one of the worst rushing teams in the NFL. But look what happened from weeks 9 on. 136.9 rushing yards per game, almost 4.6 yards per carry. It basically turned the entire season around when Jaylen Warren started getting going and Najee Harris started getting going as well. So I'm a little concerned that the Steelers aren't going to be able to run the ball here. And if they can't run the ball, how are they going to utilize play action for Russell Wilson? It's tough. I know, look, this is a Falcons defense that has a new coach, new defensive coordinator, but I don't like the matchup for the Steelers offense at all. But now we flip it to the other side and look at the Falcons offense matchup against the Steelers defense, and I mean, there's just nothing but question marks on this side. Sure, we could look at what the Falcons offense did last year. They were 4th in run frequency, ran a pretty quick pace. Does that matter, though? It's an entirely new coaching staff, not to mention Kirk Cousins is playing quarterback, all new receivers. I mean, everything about this offense is new. Sure, we can look at their metrics from last year. 14th in yards per play, 20th in success rate, 27th in offensive EPA. But I don't think they mean anything. Look at the depth chart. I mean, everything's new here. You got Kirk Cousins playing quarterback, obviously much different than Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke. Look at the receivers. 3 of their top 4 receivers are new this year. Rondale Moore is hurt, by the way. It doesn't say it on this graphic, but he is. Combine that with the new coaching staff, and how can we even make a guess of what kind of offense we're going to see here? Zach Robinson takes over as OC. He's never called plays before, so we don't even have anything to reference as far as what kind of play calling we're about to see here. Really tough to make a prediction. We can look at what the Rams offense did last year. They were 13th in run frequency, 20th in pass frequency, 14th in pace, so actually somewhat similar to what the Falcons did. That's something. But as a whole, really tough to place an educated bet on this side of the football. But there is one thing we can count on this side. The Steelers are going to blitz. They were 6th in blitz rate last year. Very successful pass rush. Even though these metrics don't look, 11th in pressure rate, 13th in adjusted sack rate, they don't look crazy. We know this Steelers pass rush shows up in big moments and is one of the better pass rushes in football. I don't expect that to change. Here's the thing. Now, small sample size because he got hurt. Kirk Cousins was actually one of the best quarterbacks in football when pressured last year. That sounded crazy just coming out of my mouth. 4th in yards per attempt, 1st in passer rating. 1st. He led the NFL in passer rating when pressured. Also, wasn't really taking sacks either. 10th in pressure to sack rate. Now again, small sample size, he got hurt. But no question, the Kirk Cousins we saw last year before he got hurt was probably the best version of Kirk Cousins we've ever seen. I mean, he was great. He was handling pressure great. He was protecting the football. Really impressive. Who knows, coming off an injury, if he's able to replicate any of that. But still, I don't think Falcons fans are crazy to be optimistic. Now, something that concerns me a little, the weakness of this Steelers pass defense was the deep ball. They're actually top 10 against the intermediate pass and the short pass. That's where Kirk Cousins was throwing all of his passes last year. He's in the top 10 in frequency, short pass, and intermediate pass. Didn't really throw the deep ball much last year. Now, that's razor thin, but it's something. Steelers defense might be equipped to give him some problems. Speaking of the Steelers defense, here are their metrics from last year. Yeah, a little concerning that they allowed 4.4 yards per carry. That was 22nd in the NFL. 12th in run defense EPA, 13th in run defense DVOA. Decent numbers against the pass. But with Patrick Queen joining that team at inside linebacker, combined with the fact that they were so injured at that position last year, you got Patrick Queen and Elandon Roberts on the inside healthy. I expect the Steelers' run defense to take a giant step forward and definitely be in the top 10 this year, which is why I can't lay 3 points with the Falcons here. I just can't do it. I'm not big on this Steelers team, but I'm not laying 3 points with the Falcons. Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury with a brand new offense, brand new system, offensive coordinator that's never called plays before against the Steelers pass rush. I mean, that just sounds like a nightmare. So as far as picking a side, I guess it would only be Steelers +3. I'm also looking at the under at 42.5. Really not sure what kind of pace we're going to see from the Falcons offense. So I don't know what I'm going to do here. It'll be Steelers +3, under 42.5 though. If I bet this game, it'll be something in that department. I'll let you know on the live show. As of right now, I haven't placed a bet yet. Live shows Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll go through every single game on the board, make our final decisions, bring on guests, same thing we always do. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you want to see all the bets I currently have open right now, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on Open Bets. You can see all the bets I have open as well as everyone on the staff here. So head over to the website and sign up for Sauce Network Plus if you're interested. Also comes with access to the Discord, and you can participate in the weekly betting league. Starts on Thursday. $150 and a trophy go to the winner every single week. So head over and sign up if you're interested. Let's have ourselves a great NFL Week 1. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.